So that catches you up on what was supposed to get done last time. And if you join the Facebook group, if you weren't here last time, you can watch the videos from last month and virtually catch up. So it's all recorded, it's all available. With me? Okay, so now we're going to get into what we're doing today with all of that as a preface. But even though some of you haven't seen that yet, everything today will still make sense and still apply. You will still get a lot out of it, but you're going to go back and watch what you missed. Okay. Okay. So, the secret mail order product. Because what we are trying to do, the more ways you can touch people, the more forms of media you have, the stronger your marketing will be and the better results you will get. So you are going to see a whole lot of examples where we send a postcard in the mail to drive them online, to register for something, and then follow up with them offline again. Because the more ways you can touch them, the more you can sell. So in this case, the secret mail order product, no, we're not selling supplements, is, let's get through it. If you don't have the right product and you don't know how to promote it the right way, you're not going to get any results. But selling ideas can make you very wealthy. Now, I'm in the golf business. I'm not in the idea business. Yes, you are. I'm going to show you why you're not in the real estate business. You're really in the mindset. The biggest change comes when you stop thinking of yourself as the doer of the thing. So you're not a real estate agent. You're a marketer of real estate services. Because it's a different mindset to be a business owner. Because then you start thinking about, you stop worrying about, did I fill out the forms for the closing right? And you start worrying about, how do I build a sustainable business model where we get 30 listings a month, whether I get out of bed or not? Does that make sense? And it's all about the big idea that doesn't exist in your marketplace right now. And so Amanda can vouch for this. Amanda's here representing 3 different companies that are all clients of ours, and has just finished going through our 24-step homework sequence that you're in the middle of right now, those annoying emails you get from me every day. And part of the homework is what has been never offered in your industry before, what should be raised, what is not being offered, what is being offered that shouldn't be, thinking about your business in a different way. So the idea that you need to sell to get their attention is the irresistible free offer. So, for example, Kurt is a home inspector. Is every home inspector in Western New York the same? No. Are there good home inspectors and bad home inspectors?
Absolutely.
Okay. But if me as a real estate agent, to you, how do you tell the difference from, how do you know if Kurt and 10 of his colleagues are lined up in this room, how do you know who's good and who's bad?
Just without them saying anything? You can't.
You can't.
So I have to work with them to know whether or not they're good.
Right, and what if they all say we give great customer service, we do a great job?
Prove it.
You can't know unless Kurt makes himself stand out. And if he says exactly the same thing, the same way as everybody else, it will fall on deaf ears. Because we get bombarded with right now about 5,000 marketing messages a day. So the idea has to be different than just, I'm a good home inspector. It has to be different than just, I'm another real estate agent. Make sense? Okay. So, how do we write a lead generation report or irresistible free offer? So I'm going to give you a whole bunch of examples, but this is one of mine. 7 guaranteed ways to make new customers appear like magic. This is for marketing. So you read it, and we're going to talk about it. It tells the story, and then gives 7 different marketing techniques and examples of actual clients who have used them and the results they got. So that by the end of it, the person reading it has a wish list of, oh my God, I want to buy X, Y, and Z, how do I get it? And then of course it tells them how to do that. In the process of this, it educates them on who we are, why we are different, why no one else can do what we do, and why we're the only logical choice. So, theoretically, can anyone give any home inspector do a home inspection? Sure, they're licensed, they can. However, there's a different process. And you just have to educate the consumer, the realtor, and the homeowner that there's a difference. A famous example I will give you is the Schlitz beer case. which was about 50 years ago, and they hired Claude Hopkins, who was one of the godfathers of direct response marketing, and he came out and took a tour of the Schlitz Beer Brewery and said, "What's that going on over there?" "Oh, that's where we wash the bottles before we put the beer in." "Okay, how do you wash the bottle? It looks like you're doing it more than once." "Yeah, we triple wash them. We wash them 3 times with scalding hot water or whatever to make sure they're sanitary." He says, "Okay, how come you've never told anyone about that in your marketing?" "Well, everybody triple washes their bottles. Every beer company does the same thing." "Okay, but no one's ever told the consumer about this." So he wrote and Schlitz was in last place in the beer war back then. And he wrote a marketing campaign about we're the only one, where we triple wash our bottles. And Schlitz went from nowhere to like the number 2 selling beer in the country in a matter of months. And every other beer company started screaming, "We triple wash our bottles," but because no one had said anything, they were second. They looked like they were copying, and all of a sudden it didn't work. And he made millions off of it, royalties for selling beer. So just because everyone can do it doesn't mean they're telling them about it, or doesn't mean they're telling it in a different way. So if every real estate agent says, "We'll come out and do your listing presentation," don't call it a listing presentation, because then they can get that anywhere. Just making up a new name for it or giving your process a name can be a game changer. Does that make sense? Okay. So your how-to report or video series or whatever the Irresistible Free offer is needs to outline the instructions of what you ultimately want them to do. You have to tell them. They don't know. It needs to detail a how-to method for solving a problem. How to sell your house in 30 days. How to stage your home for top dollar. How to fix your slice. How to finally get business from your website. How to close that, how to communicate better with your spouse. How to close the next sale. How to get a new job. How to take care of mom the way you wish you could without driving yourself nuts at the same time. And how to, well, you got to pick a product because I think you got like 12 of them, but right. We'll work on focus later. It's got to be simple because if it's too complicated, you'll overwhelm them and they won't do it. There's a really, really good book that's your homework assignment for this month. It's called Pitch Anything. This is a guy who pitches venture capital deals who wrote it and has done raised billions and billions of dollars for companies and goes into the toughest rooms in the world and gets Kleiner Perkins or Donald Trump or whoever to write billion-dollar checks. And neuroscientists study the art of the pitch and the presentation, and it's amazing the stuff that's in there. The list of subjects obviously could be endless. Forget what you learned in English class in high school or college. Write like you're talking to a friend. So we sometimes have this issue when we do video shoots for our clients, where they get in front of a camera and they get frozen and they get nervous. And what I'll say, and they don't know what to say. And I'll say, you know what, forget the cameras here. You're talking to Sherry, your best friend, over a glass of wine. She just told you she's thinking about getting divorced. You're a divorce attorney, what do you tell her? Say that. So write like you speak. Did I put it on this?
I just said congratulations.
Oh. She's finally free. So write like you're talking to a friend. So it's the best and worst example of this I ever saw was in my undergraduate at Syracuse University. My roommate, my junior year, found at a garage sale Vanilla Ice's autobiography, the 80s rapper. And they literally wrote it like he talked. So at the end of every couple sentences, it would say, "So me and my boys went down to the store. Yup was written in the book." Now, I'm not saying it was a good book because it wasn't, but he literally wrote like he talked. I wouldn't do ghetto slang, but write like he talked. If it's corporate jargon and boring, they won't read it. We had this issue with one of Amanda's companies the other day where the career counseling quote in there was all jargon speak. And it took 3 tries to turn it into English. And I didn't even understand it the first time I read it. You cannot, where is it? Hang on. This is P.T. Barnum. P.T. Barnum's book, The Art of Money Getting. One of my favorite P.T. Barnum quotes is, "You cannot go broke underestimating the stupidity of the American public." If this is a trick we use, if you use Microsoft, whatever word processor you use, when you do the spell check, like in Microsoft Word, there's a checker that will tell you what grade level you wrote at. Keep it to 5th grade or less. That's what the USA Today is written on. USA Today is written at a 5th grade level. Keep it, you cannot keep it simple enough.
So do you have access, just quick access to that, where that is in the Word?
F7, and then you check the, whatever then the box pops up and there's a button that says grammar and style check, and it will tell you, it will analyze your whole thing in about 30 seconds and say this is the grade level you are at. And if you click like the advanced tab, if it's too high, it will give you all the big words that tripped you up to make it, to dumb it down.
Thank you.
No problem. The highest selling newsprint publication in the United States is the National Enquirer. It sells more than the top 50 newspapers combined. New York Times, LA Post, Washington Post, combined. The Enquirer. It's scary, but you need to think about it this way. Don't make the initial, oh my God, that's scary assumption, because there aren't enough people living in Kansas watching out for UFOs to sell that many copies. When you're at Wegmans, look at the person in front of you, because they're not in Kansas looking for aliens. They live in Williamsville and they're still buying it. That's the grade level you need to write for. So pick a subject you obviously know a lot about. Channel your passion, because the more passionate you are about what you do and who you do it for, it will come across in your writing. If it's the #1 marketing sin is being boring. If you can't get excited about what you're trying to communicate, then your prospect won't get excited either. Pick something that you can show your audience how to do, but you're not going to show them everything. You've got to leave them wanting more so they hire you. So you could give them, for example, we do the pitch at the end of this is an audit of your website. We tell you where you rank on the search engines and why you're not higher and what you need to do to fix it. We give you enough, and I've got a testimonial here. I'll read it to you. I was not expecting, this is from Lisa Jones of Fish Window Cleaning. I was not expecting what I received. I thought, yes, of course Seth was going to say I was only doing fair, otherwise he would not have any business. So I'm probably not as bad off as it states. But my biggest surprise is not where the report left me off. It gave me in great detail my missing pieces on how to improve my rating from fair to dominate. I had huge holes in my internet presence. I started to do the work to fill in the holes, and it worked. Within 4 weeks, I moved my rankings within Google in one of my largest markets from 10 to 3rd. So it worked. She tested it out. I gave her enough to go see that it would work, but not enough that she could get everything done she wanted. So she said, wow, this really works, and he gave it to me for free. Imagine how much better it would be if I wrote him a check. And in the last 12 months, we doubled her business. So you've got to give them enough that they see that you know what you're talking about that could work. Here's a golf exercise to go do tomorrow and see the difference. Oh wow, my swing got better. I want more. Enough to get them, whet their appetite and get them coming back. Make sense? Mm-hmm. You can interrupt the next question, by the way. Okay, so subject material, the material has to be sellable. It has to be something that they want. You could write the greatest lead generation offer in the world, but if nobody wants it, it's not going to do any good. So this is where it comes to the point where you need to think like your target market. You need to be able to get inside their head and go, what is their biggest challenge right now? So maybe it's, I got the kids, the husband, the career, the house, the pets, and mom wants me to take her to the doctor 3 times a week, and I can't drop everything every time, and she's driving me nuts. She wants me to take her shoe shopping. She wants me to, I can't listen to the stupid story about my grandfather again. Or maybe it's, you know what, it's Western, how do I sell my house? You know, how do I tell all the real estate agents apart? There's some lousy ones. There are houses in my neighborhood that have been up and out, on the market, off the market, on the market, off the market, like 2 years. Like, seriously, you should be able to sell that in a week. That's because they don't know what you know. Focus on the target. It has to be all about them. So that's why this example, every page has a case study of a client and how they could use it. If it was all about us and just how great they are, they're not going to care. The prospect's not going to care. You've got to target what they want to hear and fill it with self-interest benefits. What's in it for them? WIFM, everybody's favorite radio station. What are they going to get? And then you need to arouse their actual emotion. You have to connect the benefits to the emotion you want them to have. So people have to be disturbed enough to change. So they're doing whatever they're doing that you could be selling them now their own way. They're using a different realtor, they're listing their house themselves, they're buying somebody else's golf DVD, they got somebody other web company, or they're buying Tom Hopkins sales books, or whatever it is. Or they're on somebody else's career blog. So you've got to disturb them enough to get them to switch to you. So that means you've got to create pain. Pain will always outsell pleasure. Only two motivating forces in the world moving away from pain or towards pleasure. If you think this is not true, next time you are having sex, drop a brick on your foot and see how long you last. You'll stop because you'll be in pain's a more powerful motivating force. Sorry, this is not a PG-13 rated group. So you have to get them in pain so that you can then position yourself as the solution to their problem. And then you've got to advertise this. You've got to get their attention because otherwise they don't see it. You've got to create interest. Your marketing should be built around the benefit that it's offering. And again, we're solely selling your irresistible free offer, whatever it is. We're not trying to sell your product yet. We're just trying to sell your content. You must arouse desire. You've seen this formula before. Attention, interest, desire, action. AIDA. Your ad must move them to act. What do you want them to do? Am I driving them to a website to opt in for this? Am I getting them to call me? Do I want them to come to an event? And then for the purposes of this group, where we're going to be advertising these things is direct mail, straight to the list, social media, and email marketing. There are plenty of other places to advertise. But for the purposes of this group, that's what we're going to focus our efforts on because they're the fastest way to the cash and the most cost-effective way to do it. Could you take out a full-page ad in the Buffalo News? Sure you could. Could you do a giant television campaign? Yes. But we're not going to do that for the purposes of this. Or display ads are better for those with visual outcomes. So, online traffic. Traffic to your website. Not a common misconception is that if I just get more traffic, I'll make more money. That is not always true. More traffic does not always equal more money, especially if it's free traffic. But all traffic does have value and can be exploited. Just like in real estate, what's the number one rule in real estate? Location, location, location. It's the same thing with
Price.
Price. Okay, it's been changed. I apologize. See, nobody told me.
That's why you need to hire me.
Business is located.
I thought you already were hired. Except we're building, you're selling my house, they're building.
That's right.
Right. So the location and the quality of the traffic is very, very important. Organic online traffic is unpredictable and can't always be counted on because Google changes their algorithm every couple months. And because your competition could come, we've found an interesting situation where when the marketing that we're doing for John Fortini, we owned the first page for a number of keywords, a number of very specific keywords, but the longer one, Straight Catering Buffalo, we have now aroused some actual action from other companies in the area who are actually doing stuff now. We will combat that, but you can't always know what your competitors are going to do. Content marketing. Content takes time. This is, for example, like if you had a blog and there were weekly career tips on it. You're not going to come up with 50 tips in a week. And you're not going to publish them all the same day. It won't work. So again, it takes time. there's the direct time and the cost to create it. What is your time worth if you're not paying yourself to do it, if you're not paying someone to do it, if you're doing it yourself? And then there's the opportunity cost because you could have used that time for something else. So there needs to be a value gain from the trade-off. If you're going to spend the time to create the content, you have to get enough value that it makes it worth your while. Traffic has to be scalable. So this example, okay, so if, does anybody hear about Shark Tank? Okay, yes, favorite show on television. So one of the questions they always ask is, how are we going to make this business scale? Okay, you got a cupcake store. Okay, you're making $50,000 a year in your one cupcake store. If we put 500 cupcake stores, will it do the same thing? You know, or you're one person making, there was funny, I was watching the holiday one on my iPad the other day, because my kids had the TV, so there was a lady on there called Fat Ass Fudge. And she was making fudge in her kitchen by herself and selling it. And you're like, well, you're not a scalable business yet. If we give you 200,000 customers, that would be the worst thing ever, and you'd have a heart attack and keel over die. You have to be able to fill the infrastructure, and you have to be able to buy it. Because one of the things that Dan Kennedy, my mentor, says is, if you can't make a profit off of paid advertising, you don't have a real business. If it's all word of mouth, if, let's say, for example, there are a number of BNI folks in the room, if every piece of business, if you get 100% of your business from BNI, and you have a stroke, well, who's going to go get the business from BNI now? That's not scalable, unless you can teach somebody how to do exactly what you do in BNI and get the same results, which is why I have employees in 4 chapters, trying to, so that they can go be me, because I can't be in 4 chapters at once, and I'm allowed to anyway. It needs to be controllable. So you need to be able to turn it on and turn it off, because one of the things is, can you fulfill it? So if all of a sudden you have 200 people who want to talk to you about listing your house, you don't want to piss them all off because you can't get to them in time. So you need to be able to turn it on and turn it off. And the virtue of being able to, let's say, send out a direct mail campaign is you can say, I want to send 100 or I want to send 1,000. And you can say, like, for example, you're going to see a couple that I've done that have worked really well. And then Don Crosby, who will be here shortly, who does my printing, I said, okay, Don, send out another 1,000. I want them to drop on January 7th. And I know, based on what we've done before, how much money's coming back, and we've got the employees to fill it. And then after that money comes in, we'll either have to wait before we run another one, or we'll have to hire more people. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Again, we're some of this is more advanced, some of it is, but humor me. Obviously, it has to be profitable. You don't want to be like webvan.com and buy a $2 million Super Bowl ad and go out of business because you didn't make any money. And now we're going to talk about how to extract the most value from your traffic, whether it's calling your office, meeting with you. So when I say traffic, I'm not just talking about online. It could be a listing, a physical presentation, etc. It's just my word for it. So the first thing you need to figure out is, what is your lifetime customer value? So if somebody buys a house with you, on average, statistically, they come back, what, like 7 years later? They buy a house every 7, America moves every 7 years.
Every 7 years.
Okay. So if, let's say, I'm making this up, you make $20,000 in commission on a house.
That'd be nice.
Okay, let's go. $10,000 on a house. Okay, we'll go to 10. Every 7 years, you're making 10. And let's say the average person moves 5 times, you're making 50 grand over 35 years.
Well, that's statistically not correct, because the average person after 2 years forgets who their realtor was because they don't touch them.
Yes, which we're getting to. So if you were to keep them every time, that's what you would make.
Yes.
So now, if I tell you I'll get you a client that's worth $50,000, you can say, how much do I want to pay to get that client? What is my cost per acquisition? Because your marketing budget shouldn't be determined by a percentage of sales, it should be determined by how much business do you want. So this is the total value a visitor will give to your client will give to your company. What do they spend with you, and how much do they spend, and for how long? There was I also watched CNBC How I Made My Millions, and there was a guy on Chris Zane of Zane's Bikes. and their business model changed. They sell bicycles. And he changed his model when he said, you know what, he started thinking about this and he said, you know what, the average kid gets their first bike at the age of 4. People generally stop riding around 65 or 70. If I can sell them bikes for 61 years in a row, they don't buy one every year, but that is about 30 bike transactions, and now all of a sudden my customer's worth $20, $40, $50, $60, $70,000. And he started thinking about it like that. It changes everything to focus on how do I get the relationship with them where they will buy every bike from me for the next 30 years. How do I get them to come back in 2 years so they don't forget about me? So this will include your front-end sale, which is the first thing they buy from you, a golf lesson, a home inspection, a course, a buffet. The back-end sale, what do you sell them after that? What do you upsell them? And what else can you offer them from other people? An affiliate offer. So you can sell them the house, and then what? Could you have a joint venture with a carpet company? Where now when you move in, the carpet, you refer them to the carpet company and add the carpet guy gives you a percentage of the sale. Okay, you need your house painted. Can wing painting, etc., etc. So there's more. Who else wants to serve your customer? Because once you get in the gatekeeper position, lots and lots of people will pay to access your customers. So all of a sudden you're getting 7 revenue streams from one house. And they still need their carpets cleaned for the next 7 years. They might need their house cleaned every week. If you become the hub that controls the customer, you can charge everyone else for the privilege of talking to them. Does that make sense? And all of a sudden your revenue stream doesn't go like this, it goes like that. Most entrepreneurs don't understand this. So the average visitor value, and this is when we talk about like a website, is you take how much revenue does your website generate, how many visitors did you have, you divide that, and you say, okay, my average visitor is worth $10 or $1,000 or whatever it is. So this is a more useful number in the short term. The extraction quantity is relative to the market value of what you're selling. So a $10,000 price point, your visitors are going to be worth more because you're trying to turn them into a $10,000 commission than a $19 ebook. Does that make sense? So how do we do research to find out where people are looking to get inside our mind, the mindset of our prospect, to find out what we want to sell them, how we're going to do it? Google has a free keyword tool. If you Google keyword tool, you will get it. Or the paid programs that we use are Keyword Elite, SEO Elite, and Market Samurai. The Google keyword tool is plenty to get you started. What you can use is you can type in your website or something very cool and sneaky, your #1 competitor. Google will then tell you what keyword that site ranks for. And then you use the Google Traffic Estimator, and Google type in the keyword, and Google will tell you how many people are searching for that every month. So you can now see, so for example, chiropractor Buffalo gets 2,400 searches a month. Is that a good market for Jack Saya to go after? Yes, it is. That's why he wrote me a check. Because 2,400 people a month are searching for a chiropractor in Buffalo. And even if I only got him 1% of that marketplace, that's 24 patients a month. Weight loss Buffalo. Thousands and thousands of people are searching for a month. In the weight loss clinic that we're doing marketing for him for is so successful now, in the last 2 months, he's already made his entire investment back. He's like, the next time he did his video shoot yesterday, he said, you know, the next 10 months are a bonus. I already sold out. Because enough people were searching for it. Does that make sense? There has to be a market. There has to be demand. Okay, so your value, you have to be traffic worthy. Your value has to be greater than the market value. Your goal is to be able to pay more to acquire a customer than anyone else. I'm going to say that again. Your goal is to be able to pay more, not less, more for a customer. Because if you can afford to pay more for a customer than anybody else, you can buy all the traffic in the market. You can own the entire thing. I've gotten to the point in the financial services space where we're actually reselling our traffic to other competitors because we can't process it all. So there are, on one keyword, financial advisor marketing, there are 480 searches a month. It's a small, tightly defined keyword. It's a very specific market. I have 3 listings on the first page of Google for that keyword, and I get 360 opt-ins a month. That's not hits to my website, that's people giving me their name, email, and cell phone. So I have over 70% of the market for that keyword. So we now sell that traffic to other companies, affiliate relationships. They sell them their products, and we get a cut because I can afford to pay more for the traffic than they can because I have it all. Does that make sense? So when your value is what the value you can extract from your client is greater than your competitor, you can print money. If the senior van is charging $30 a trip, and Tim can get people to pay him $90 for the same exact amount of time, he can put the senior van out of business really fast if he wants. You get it? Does that make sense? Okay.
That's a really good idea.
He doesn't, it's a different mindset. You don't automatically make the leap for every business because I see the looks on some of your faces and some of you are thinking, how is this possibly going to apply? We'll get there. Or just ask a question. But it does work. It isn't as obvious in every business, in some businesses. But when you find a way to make it work, the sky is the limit. So your goal not only is to be able to extract so much money that you can pay more to acquire a client, but to increase their value as many different ways as possible. So by offering other services, you increase their value. By getting them to buy from you more often, you increase their value. By getting them to pay a higher transaction price, you pay more value. The only thing that is standing in the way of you charging higher fees for whatever it is that you do is your ability to keep a straight face when you quote a higher price. When I started in the financial services business, I sold a financial plan for $125. And I started working with Dan Kennedy, and the first thing he said is double your prices. I said, I just wrote this guy a couple $100,000 check, I guess I'm going to listen. So the next day, the plan was $250. Nobody said no. Monthly phone call next month, double them again. Next time it was $500, then $1,000, then $2,000. I got to